Welcome, everybody. This is our last election call for about a month. I'm going to get a back operation, so I will be out, and we'll have one around December 1st. So we're going to go right into it today. We have a lot of people standing by. First on our list up is Deb Monks, Florida election security advocate. She is focusing on legislature reform. Deb, come on down.
Thank you, Steve, and good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to join today to share some of our latest efforts on promoting legislation in Florida, because at least some of the things we're working on, I think, will be very useful across several states. Wanted to make you aware of that. So our focus in Florida initially, and this started over a year ago, was develop comprehensive election security legislation that did 5 things. First, a bill that ensured only and all legal voters could register to vote and vote. The second focused on all and only legal ballots are counted. The third focuses on making sure all the ballots are counted and reported accurately. Then overlaying that, a technology management process that ensures that can be done, and a governance process that ensures it is done with real proof that it's being done. And we've updated these bills with 2 things in mind. One, new learnings we've had over the last year, but also the executive orders that President Trump has issued and has discussed about issuing additional ones in the near future. Our bills actually contain within them the statutes that are required to make President Trump's executive orders and directives Florida law. And while an executive order is nice, long-term, if we want secure elections, we've got to codify this. So and we've got basically everything that he's discussed so far in this legislation, but I want to talk about just one piece of it today, and that is the qualified vote by mail topic. And I'm naming it qualified vote by mail. Everybody calls it something different, which is part of the problem we have in conversing on this subject. What is a vote by mail ballot? What's an absentee ballot? But I'm going to tell you how I define qualified vote by mail. And based on a study I did that was to provide support for the executive order team, based on a colleague's request, what I found and what we're focusing on here in Florida in response. So there are already 14 states in this country that follow a qualified vote by mail policy. That is simply a policy that says all, but only voters who are unable to vote in person can vote by mail. There are 14 states that have this policy today, or as of 2024 general election. 12 of them are Republican states, you see here in the mid-South, and 2 of them are Democratic states in the Northeast. We also have 8 states, plus 2 partially, that send a vote by mail ballot to everyone, whether it's requested or not. Most states, however, today, including Florida, require the voter to request a vote by mail ballot. So this is sort of a continuum of most secure to least secure, and lowest volume of vote by mail to highest. So we took a look at these 14 states and found what criteria they used, looked at what it meant to voter turnout, what it meant to voting patterns. And what we found is the 12 states that are Republican that implemented a qualified vote by mail policy, they vote Republican. And the 2 states that are Democrat majorities that have adopted this, they still vote Democrat. So there's not a drastic difference between states in terms of their likelihood to vote one way or another. What there is a big difference is those 14 states on average have 70% less vote by mail ballots than the rest of the states, or the national average. So this is big. This is big for 2 reasons. The first, of course, is vote by mail, while we can and we must put a lot of controls on it, can never fully be rid of its vulnerabilities. You still can't control what's going on in a post office. You still can't control or verify, be sure that the voter wasn't coerced into voting a certain way. So for those 2 reasons, we think it's a good thing to follow this policy. And I believe that's the policy that's going to be forthcoming in the next executive order. As I go around Florida and talk to legislators and political party members, I hear a lot of misconceptions about qualified vote by mail. And I want to share them with you and how I answer them. The first concern I hear, especially coming from Florida, is we need vote by mail for snowbirds and seniors to win. Well, under the typical policy that's out across these 14 states and that we are proposing in Florida, snowbirds and senior will qualify for vote by mail. I also hear we need vote by mail for hurricanes and emergencies. We've accommodated for that, having the ability of temporarily displaced voters to qualify for vote by mail. The first thing I typically hear out of county groups is we need vote by mail to win elections. And my response to that is we need to get out the vote to win elections and follow the rules, but follow them to the max. And it's a level playing field in terms of vote by mail. If it's a qualified, you must qualify, and then everybody go get those who qualify. And as I already said, it is really not changing the voting patterns. And by that, I mean turnout, I mean what type of candidate you vote for. And we just need stronger controls on vote by mail. Well, we do need stronger controls on vote by mail. We've got many missing controls and they're essential, but we can't mitigate every risk. And the best path forward, we believe, is to follow the direction of President Trump and limit vote by mail only to those who truly need it. So that's my pitch for today, Steve.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Next up, we have Seth Keshel, one of the top election security gurus in the country. Glad to get him on today. Want to stick him on, Raj?
Go ahead, Seth.
All right,
Go ahead,
gentlemen,
Seth.
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for having me back on. Hello, everybody. Looking through the chat participants, I recognize a lot of names on here. A lot of people have done a lot of great things in election world. I have moved into a field in which I apply my understanding of election manipulation with traditional polling, or not polling, political analytical factors, which allows me to predict elections in the modern age. But I need people to wrap their minds around the long-term goal of election security. There are elections coming up next week, which are going to be probably a significant emotional event. I am not feeling bullish at all about Virginia at all. I think that the Republicans will hold the Attorney General spot based on the scandal with the Democrat candidate, but I do not feel that we're likely to win the governorship. The lieutenant governor's race may be close, but either way, that's just the way things blow in political science when the president is a Republican. Same way when the president's a Democrat, these parties are stronger. Looks like a closer race in New Jersey, but the electorate is modeling more Democrat than it was in 2021. Also, expecting the Republicans to pick up the same minority coalition that Trump did is maybe a little bit ambitious. And of course, we all know about New York City, which really frustrates me, given that you have Mamdani with 44, 45, 46% of the vote and the two other candidates combining for more than 50%. So don't try to sell me how dangerous it is that Mamdani could be mayor of New York City when you've got two people that if one dropped could potentially beat him. Now, away from that monologue, I'm going to bring up some research that this is once again what I did for the last 5 years, is using the government's own numbers to make my point. And I'm going to share a slide that I've made so everybody can understand this. So this has been, can you guys see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, so this has been run all over the place. Newt Gingrich is a huge fan of this analysis. It's voter registration by party statistics. If you don't see your state, there's a good reason for that. There are 30 states that register voters by party, Republican or Democrat or other recognized parties. 29 of those states, if you look at this column on the right, so we're right at the 1 year mark since the 2024 election, 29 of these 30 states, actually this will be 28 out of 29. I'm waiting on Connecticut to update this month. 28 out of the 29 states on the screen are more Republican by registration than they were in the November 2024 election. The only state that has moved to the left is Utah. And that is a technicality based on voter roll maintenance in a R+39 state. So I'm confident that if maintenance is completed, that Utah will continue to track more Republican. So what this means is long term, the Republicans are winning the battle for the political future, and a lot of that is aided by the extremism of the far left Democrats, especially these numbers pop big time to the right. After Charlie Kirk was shot, you can see 85,000 to the right since September 2025. Big moves in Pennsylvania, big moves in Arizona. So how this works with election integrity in mind, you don't see elections, at least statewide elections, being stolen in places like Wyoming or Idaho. That's because the Republican Party registration advantage is simply too large to justify a steal. Same thing that's going on in Florida now, with Florida becoming so much more Republican. Arizona is a great example. In 2022, Katie Hobbs, when she, quote, won the governorship, the Arizona GOP only had an advantage of 166,000 registrations. Now it's 333,000 and climbing. So the registration advantage is twice as large as it was in November 2022. She won by 17,117 ballots over Kari Lake. So what this means is the increase in understanding this, the increase in registration advantage makes it more difficult to come up with the ballot differential needed to override margins. So this is something that we must consider as we are tracking election integrity issues. Can you guys still hear me? All right.
Yes, fine.
Okay, good. So look, party registration in all the battleground states, just like I just showed you, everything in Florida is moving right. Pennsylvania and Michigan moved with Florida since 1952, except the safest and most secure election of all time in 2020. Duval County, Florida, moving more Republican. Georgia is linked with Duval County, Florida for the last 2 decades. You've got Iowa continuing to move Republican, which is going to impact Wisconsin and Michigan. Pennsylvania's rightward move matches up with Michigan, and then you have Arizona and Nevada both tracking in the same direction. So even in the extreme white liberal states, even in the extreme white, so I see a comment on here, he doesn't see the connection. I just explained it. Okay, if you have a registration advantage that is of a certain size, it is difficult to use mail-in balloting to overcome a larger registration advantage like that. So closer registrations, closer competitive environments allow for elections to be stolen easier, especially when there's a lot of mail-in voting like Arizona. 3/4 of the ballots are through the mail. Florida had over 3 million mail-in ballots as well. So you're going to continue to find media narratives suggesting competitive races to justify election manipulation, but in reality, the political environment is leaning far to the right for the foreseeable future. Questions, Steve?
Yeah. First of all, let everybody know how they can get on your site. Number two, you've got a lot of experience, and they finally recognized you in the White House. Give us a little background of how you were able to make the jump from 5 years of trying to get with the RNC and with the government to finally get through that, because we've been fighting that for a long time.
Well, I didn't make it through the RNC. First of all, I remember we had a call last summer, 2024, and you had Christina Norton on. So I volunteered all of my research and all of my information to the RNC. And I think that my issue was I had created Michael Whatley didn't care for my opinions about North Carolina's 2020 election. I had buried the hatchet on that, let water go under the bridge, but basically they didn't care to use a whole lot of what I had put forward. I helped get information to the campaign through a lot of my other contacts, but I wouldn't say that I've caught the attention of the White House at all because of the RNC. I have a few personal connections that help make meetings possible. So the good news is the people in charge of handling election issues at the White House are not the same stripe that you found in 2021, where they wanted to let this stuff go away. So I am confident, based on what I know, that they have a good feel of the pulse of what the issues are with our elections, which I will continue to maintain voter registration corruption, which Marley Hornick is on this call, and she's done a ton of great work with the voter registration database. So voter registration corruption is the primary issue. That's the foundation. And then when you can add on mail-in voting, so universal mail-in vote is the ultimate dream. 8 states have that. They're overwhelmingly blue states. And then you can legalize or permit ballot harvesting. Then you have the ability to produce a certain ballot count. So in Pennsylvania, I think that the Democrat election law changes, especially Act 77, have allowed for 700,000 or more fraudulent ballots to be in the count. I don't think the Democrats should have more than 2.9 million votes in Pennsylvania. They can get 3.5. So the law in these states is what allows the ballot counts to be what they are. And in states like Arizona, where 2/3 or 3/4 of the vote is from 2 counties, it's really easy to run big margins there that blot out the rest of the state. The White House understands that.
So, people, you get more research than most people that I've come across. How do people get in touch with you? How do they get on your site? How do they join you? We want to get more people with you to finance you also, because I respect you as one of the most important election security people in the country.
Well, I appreciate that, Steve. And likewise, I don't know a lot of people that have the reach you have that pulls together this many people. I'm easy to find. I don't do a whole lot of tweeting anymore. So I'm over at captaink.us. Captaink.us. That's my Substack. A lot of you know me personally, like Robin here. I see Dan Schultz, a Army officer veteran who's done great work with the precinct strategy. And I think that you all ought to look into that if you're looking to get involved. CaptainK.us. So thank you so much for having me on.
You got it. Pleasure having you on, and I appreciate all the good work. The good news for you is I have a good contact you for the RNC that will help you. We finally got through to that because they got rid of, like you said, a lot of the people who don't want to communicate with us. So I will contact you and give you that information.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Of course. My pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Next person that we have on is Marley Hornick, CEO of the realamerica.vote. Has a lawsuit against Letitia James. She's going to talk about that. Had a big press conference in DC yesterday, which I hope a lot of people saw. Did a lot of work, had a lot of people in there. Marley, come on down.
Hey, Steve, thank you so much. I hope my sound is okay because I am up on this balcony in DC.
Sound is good. You look good. Everything is great.
Okay, good. So great to hear from Seth. Such good updates. Thank you. And also Deb Monks. So just to summarize the issues we were discussing in our press conference yesterday at the Hay Adams, right next to the White House, the lawsuit we filed in New York is a very unique opportunity based on the work of New York Citizens Audit, another organization I had founded back in 2021, where we did this great voter roll research. So many people contributed, so many devoted Americans played a role in doing this huge research project into New York's election rolls and returns. And we were doing this amazing work all over the state, from Montauk to Buffalo, bringing the reports from our audits to town boards, county legislatures, our state officials, our state reps, and our federal reps. And wouldn't you know it, the Board of Elections didn't take too kindly to their embarrassment statewide at these presentations by citizens. And they started sending very hostile, accusatory, and defamatory letters, calling us malicious, bad actors, liars, deceivers, anti-democratic, and a whole lot of other nonsense that was completely unfounded. They sent those letters all over New York State, so that when the volunteers would take their information and do a presentation in front of the town board would just hold up these letters that they had gotten from the State Board of Elections and say, well, you know, we already know about you guys. We don't have to listen to you because we already know all about you. The Board of Elections told us that you're liars and told us that you don't really know what you're talking about and you haven't really looked at this comprehensively. Unfortunately for the Board of Elections, we had a team of extraordinary, experienced experts in all of the areas we were covering. And so that was not truthful. And the Board of Elections kept saying, well, the problem is no one has ever seen their data. which was kind of fun because, you know, we had told them on numerous occasions when we submitted our comprehensive reports that the data had been theirs. It was their data, and we had simply extracted the problems from it and returned them the problems to resolve line by line. And, you know, it's not my fault that there were 5 million problems. It's their fault. I get it. That's a lot of work to do, but you know what? This country is worth it. Imagine fighting the Revolutionary War and saying it was just too much work, right? So long story short, that was going on. It didn't stop us at all. We kept going. And now the Attorney General steps in and she opened a criminal investigation under the Ku Klux Klan Act into the activities of citizens just trying to vote, according to the definition in the Voting Rights Act, which includes having your vote counted in the appropriate totals of votes cast. So, you know, and obviously fraudulent votes wouldn't be appropriate, really. It's kind of just simple. So just to be clear, the way we found out we were under criminal investigation was we read it on the headline news from Montauk to Buffalo, which is the entirety of New York State, blanketed with this information about New York Citizens Audit under KKK investigation by Letitia James. So the great thing was that we kept all the receipts on this. And so although the investigation was arduous and expensive, and over 1,000 volunteers left in fear, we have managed to file just on October 16th. So I guess that's 13 days ago now, almost a week. We filed in federal court in Albany a civil rights lawsuit. What's so great about this? Why does it matter to you, no matter where you live, no matter what state in the union you're tuning in from? The reason it matters to you is that this lawsuit is going to have standing. And although it is not an election lawsuit, we don't say our votes were diluted. Every single remedy we're asking for has to do with rectifying the problems that the state actively, knowingly and deliberately suppressed. So the remedies in this lawsuit are going to touch you, whether you live in Tennessee or Oklahoma or California or Florida or anywhere else. And that's the beauty of this lawsuit. They're going to touch you immediately because this lawsuit will secure the House majority for America First candidates in 2026. And because it's going to create the predicate for the same exact kind of compliance in your state that we're going to be forced. It's going to be forced on our administrators here. And I say that with confidence because our claims are constitutional claims. We say that the Board of Elections and Letitia James, the New York's top law enforcement officer, conspired, they colluded in a deliberate campaign to suppress First Amendment rights of New Yorkers who were arguing about serious election issues, hard evidence of illegal voting and illegal registration that was being defamed, denied, attacked, and destroyed by officials who were supposed to be fixing it. They also interfered with our right to representative government when they preemptively turned our own officials, our own representatives against us. And if you have time, you'll want to go to realamerica.vote and read the lawsuit there. You will learn so much about American history because this is a purely originalist claim or set of claims, including the idea that representative government and the right of redress of petitions is so entwined with our system of representative government that they are one and the same. So when officials use the authority falsely in their offices to defame citizens and interfere with representative government, they are committing a serious violation against the entire principle of how our country operates. And what I want to say in addition is basically we also cited Fifth Amendment and 14th Amendment due process violations. We also cite defamation. And then finally, and this is the really beautiful part, is that we claim that the actions of the election administrators, the State Board of Elections and Letitia James show plainly that they have no intention Their systems are completely non-compliant with the third sentence of the United States Constitution that says it is the people who choose the representatives and it is the states who choose the legal binding statutory requirements of eligibility for every single one of those voters. And then they follow them, they adhere to them. They've shown, we've shown that their system is broken and it's not upholding that contract. And their actions have shown that they don't care and they have no intention of upholding the contract. And so this, I think, may be the first lawsuit in American history that uses the 1983 action to hold election officials accountable under Article 1, Section 2, the Composition Clause of the United States Constitution. And for all of you originalist buffs out there, if you think about it, that is the only place in the entire American Constitution where the citizens have a job. It's the only job we have. Every other job we have is to follow the laws our legislators make and to be good citizens. But that right there is the one job we have. And I am just, you will never see me say it's okay. And you should never, ever accept that it's okay for an election official to usurp that right from you. It's wrong. And that's what this lawsuit ultimately claims. And just to be clear, the first remedy that we're seeking is exactly what New York Citizens Audit asked for all along, and 92 town boards signed on in agreement, which is a comprehensive, external, bonded, certified auditor to open up the entire election process, starting at registration and going through certification, because before we can fix any perceived problems, we have to know the full scope and scale of what's broken. And the only way to do that, which is normal in every other industry, is to have an external audit. You know, there's no reason these people should audit themselves. I audited myself the other day, and Steve Stern, he owes me $100. Scout's honor. That's what it is. You know, I'm sorry, Steve, but you know, I'll give you my address for the check. Okay, we cannot have this authorizing people to serve in the United States Congress and oversee the most powerful nation on the earth and the biggest economy, a multi-trillion-dollar economy. They are spending supposedly on our behalf based on a whole bunch of nonsense that election officials wave wands over and tell us to go back to sleep. Never again, especially after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Never again. We see who our adversary is, and we can't be nice anymore. We cannot be gracious. We have to work through the courts, and we have to win these battles. So I do encourage everybody to go to realamerica.vote and read the lawsuit. I'll tell you a secret. I wrote a lot of it. I didn't write the whole thing. I worked with many attorneys on it, really great patriots. But I'll tell you that because I wrote some of it, I know you can read it. It's not legalese. It just makes sense. Okay, so go over there, read it, check it out. Follow us on X, Real America Vote. Follow me personally at Marley Hornick. And yes, litigation is expensive. We are doing this on behalf of every American. So if you or any of your family members or friends or your business want to contribute, we can very much use your help. It's going to be a process. And we also are filing today or tomorrow, we're filing an amicus brief as well in the DOJ lawsuit that already exists against the New York State Board of Elections. We plan to do that in other states, and we are helping them escalate their arguments and get this thing fixed in time to keep the America First agenda rolling for all of our children and those generations to come. We're going to fix this country for them. So thank you, Steve. That's what I wanted to share today.
So Marley, if people want to listen, get a copy of the press conference you had yesterday, how do they do that?
It's up on X, and some people are telling me that they can hear it, and some people are saying it's an old live feed. So we'll get that fixed up. But if you look at our accounts on X, like I said, Real America Vote, follow that one, and follow Marley Hornick. You can definitely, if it's not working, we'll definitely be posting it up again.
Well, thank you very much, Molly. We appreciate everything you do, and I know you're working around the clock. You're still in DC?
Yeah, I tried to get the angle with the Washington Monument. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's kind of glary, but
No, it's a little
yeah,
glary out there. We can't see it.
yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah,
All
we're
right,
still
well, thank
here.
you
God
very much.
bless.
Thanks for sharing everything. We appreciate it. We also want to thank Steve Bannon, put me on today, squeezed me in for a couple of minutes. I had to wait about an hour to get on, but you know what? When you get on, you get a lot of people that view. And he's got it on now on his Getter channel and then also on his War Room channels. So a lot of people are coming in and seeing it there. So we certainly appreciate everything that they do. Next up, we have our New Jersey people, and we're going to start with Mark Demo and Lynn Limbecourt. Both of them are the co-founders of the Citizens for New Jersey Election Integrity, and we're glad to have new people on because we're trying to find new people who star on election integrity. And because this election is in New Jersey right now and going down to the wire, very important that they come on. So, Mark, come on down.
Thank you,
Are you
Steve.
on?
Yep.
Mark, go ahead, unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mark.
All right, great. Can you see the slide that I just shared?
We can.
Lynn?
Yes.
You're good? Yeah, we can't hear you, Lynn.
Yeah, we're good. You can go.
Okay. So I wanted to give an update since we're talking about the New Jersey election. I wanted to give an update on the status of the vote by mail. That started, we start voting by mail 45 days ahead of the election day, right? And as you can see here, Seth touched on this point, as did Deb Monks, right? We have permanent vote by mail list. And as a result, we have lots of vote by mail ballots that are sent out. So far, 937,000, right? Mailed out, 514 have come back, right? And that's a 45.6 response rate. So 277 of that have been by mail, 216,000 or 42% by Dropbox, and 16,000 by bearer. Overwhelming, 60 plus percent Democrat, 108,000 or translates into 21,000 Republican, and 16.1% unaffiliated, right? So it's an uphill battle, and Republicans have to turn out. They have to turn out early voting and election day to have a chance to win the race. And just to give you a view on the comparison between 24 and 25, the turnout rate, if you will, right? So we're looking at, I'm sorry, this is an old. We're looking at 514 out of 937. That's 54.8%, right? Compared to 667 out of 1.1 or 78% at the same time last year. Right, so we are looking at a 23-point lag, which is understandable given that last year was the presidential race, right? But we're looking at a total of basically 660,000 vote by mail ballots, and Jack's going to have to make up approximately 200,000 ballots in the in-person voting. So that's where I wanted to start, and I'll stop there. And what is Citizens for New Jersey Election Integrity doing about that? Well, we're basically doing what we've done for the last few years, right? We meet weekly with our members from across the state. There are about 150 people that are in our group. Maybe 30 of them turn up on a weekly basis, right? We discuss the topical federal and state election issues. We attend Board of Election meetings. We attend the logic and accuracy testing of all the voting machines and ask good questions to let people know that we're watching, right? We're constantly monitoring our legislature for election-related bills that are being discussed, and we share this information and encourage people to call their legislator. We hear from the county election people that the John R. Lewis bill, which is a really bad piece of legislation, may move in the lame duck session right after the election. Even the state's county election workers are against it and are lobbying against it. So we'll see. But what it does is it takes the control out of the legislature and puts it into the judiciary. If a voter feels like they have been disenfranchised by the voting process. So that's something that we're actively encouraging people to get involved in with and learn more about. We're training poll challengers. We've trained hundreds of poll challengers over the last few years. We're teaching them how to monitor the elections process in the local polling places and the Board of Election offices during each cycle. And we're challenging ineligible vote by mail voters, including Democrats, Republicans, and unaffiliated voters. And this is something that it's interesting in the sense that the RNC isn't necessarily interested in getting involved in challenging Republican voters, right? That's not, and in New Jersey, you have to be credentialed by a party to challenge a vote. And it just so happens that 65% of the votes that we do challenge are Democrat voters, right? But it's interesting when a nonpartisan group like ourselves work to improve the integrity of the process versus a political party who is focused on winning, right? So there are times when your goals intersect, and there are times when they don't. So we have over 10,000 vote by mail ballots to challenge, right? And some places the counties are not very sophisticated. Lynn, my partner's on the call. I don't know if you can get on your. I don't know if you can. Are you still on mute, Lynn? Okay, I'll just keep going then, right? So we have tens of thousands of vote by mail ballots to challenge, but the challenge process of vote by mail, for example, in some counties, Camden's one of them, they didn't have a process. No one had ever challenged a vote by mail ballot before last year, right? So think about that, right? And we've gone from maybe 30 or 40 last year to several thousand in Camden County to challenge, right? So that's a huge leap. And there's a socialization process of pulling the Board of Elections process people along with you to teach them about how to do their job. Okay, so the other thing that we're doing is we're FOIA-ing election data.
Mark, I've set up Lynn as a co-host, so if she wants to unmute, she can do so, Mark. Just letting you know. Back to you, Mark.
Okay, good. All right, so
I'm on. I'm able to speak now. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So we're FOIA-ing Oprah election data. That includes Dropbox videos, poll book logs, cast vote records, ballot images, and then we use the county's own data to reconcile the number of unique people who voted in an election and compare that to certified ballots to quickly look for problems and get into discussions with counties. Lynn, do you want to talk a little bit about the Oprah process?
Sure. So we do in New Jersey, we do enjoy a fairly good FOIA process. We're lucky because our state does release records to us that many states are not able to get regarding election data. And so one of the good examples I can share with you all is that back in June, we had our primary election, and we decided to request some of the Dropbox videos from some areas where there are a great number of vote by mail ballots. And when we first requested this information, the county told us that the municipalities would have to handle that request for us. So we went to the municipalities and they told us that they were not going to grant the request because a lot of their drop boxes were placed near police stations, and they were concerned about the confidentiality related to certain police business that was taking place. So we ended up suing this county for this particular situation. And as a result of this case, which we did end up winning, we ended up learning that the municipalities are not even fulfilling their obligation under our election statutes, Title 19, because the most of the municipalities have these videos on a 30-day loop, and the videos are being deleted automatically every 30 days. This is really problematic in New Jersey because our vote by mail ballots they begin sending out the vote by mail ballots about 45 days before the election. So essentially, you have video being deleted well before election day even occurs. So, if a candidate should happen to have a situation where a candidate wants to challenge the results of the race, or they want to contest the results of the race, by the time they do that, the video is completely gone and there's no way for them to do that. So, as a result of this case, again, we did have some connection with the RNC, and they piggybacked on our efforts, and now they have stepped in and they have a lawsuit pending for this very topic. So as far as Dropbox video and the accessibility to the public. Now, once the county that in question had figured out that they were in violation, all of a sudden, the state sent down orders to the rest of the counties to remind them that they have, by law, they have to maintain these videos for at least 45 days post-election day. So we felt like that was a win in our corner, because we just dig away at things like this. And by discovering this infraction in one very small, part of our state, it did help to alert the counties to make sure that all the counties are in compliance with that particular election law. So, Mark, did you want to talk about the things that we do with the boards of elections?
Yep. So we generally do have good relationships with New Jersey's most of the county election folks, right? They appreciate the information we share and the feedback we provide. These counties, but the counties quickly separate themselves from a transparency standpoint, and you run into people who work at Essex County or Mercer County, whom we're in a massive voter disenfranchisement lawsuit against as a result of the 2022 election, right? So, but where we don't have cooperation from the counties, we sue them, right? And as I mentioned, the vote by mail ballots that were challenging, right? The fact that we have thousands of challenging, it's really bringing these board of election people along who are anxious to outsource the entire election to your voting machine vendor, right? And so they can push it away and shake their hands and really have plausible deniability if anything goes wrong, right? But it's holding those people accountable, and it's really all about having eyes on the process. And so what we do encourage is really, there's so many things wrong with our elections, as we all know, right? And it can be an intimidating task if we have new people coming to the group and want to get involved. But at its most basic level, showing up to public meetings and asking questions goes a really long way. And then once we get people in the meeting, we can feed them the right questions to ask. So, we've reached a point where we have critical mass in a number of counties in the state, and still working with others where we don't, where we need some people. But it is constant engagement, constant questions, constant oversight.
Right. And we have now been just the last couple months, I would say, where I've been in different venues where, we're attending a lot of events now because of our election happening. And I've been told on quite a few occasions that the boards of elections know who we are now, and they are talking about us amongst themselves. And we're really, really happy about that, because, that means that we are having an effect on how they're doing their jobs, and hopefully we're helping them to improve everything. We're very happy. We've had multiple OPRA. Our Open Public Records Act is our equivalent of FOIA. So when we refer to OPRA, we're talking about our FOIA capabilities, but we've had to pursue several cases through the courts, and we've won every case that we've had regarding our OPRA lawsuits. We won our Dropbox video case, and as Mark mentioned a few minutes ago, we have a pretty substantial case happening in Mercer County that has to do with the 2022 general election, with a very large number of people being disenfranchised due to some malfunctioning with their machines and issues with their ballots. So we expect that once that actually hits the court, I think we're just about done depositions, and so that is moving forward very slowly through the courts. But I think we really will. We really might see some national attention on that case. And that being said, we have some plans for 2026. So we're excited, and we hope that everybody on the call here is paying attention to New Jersey, because we're working hard and we don't plan to stop.
How do people reach you if they have questions? And can you tell us if you feel there are any problems with mail-in ballots coming in that are, fraudulent in this election in New Jersey? Because that's how the last election won.
I'll take the last question first, Lynn, and
Go
then you
ahead.
can tell people how to get in touch with us.
Sure.
So
Sounds good.
Steve, there's the biggest category of vote by mail ballots that I have to challenge is the people who have moved the voter list. Marley said this, right? The voter list is not updated in New Jersey for people who move out of state. They've been trying to join ERIC for years, and we all know about the problems with ERIC, but they don't have an ability to share information with other states to determine if their citizens have moved. So, for example, when we run the vote by mail list up against the voter list up against the NCOA data or the PCOA data, we find thousands of people who have moved all the way back from 2020, 2021, who have voted in this election and are and have not been a resident of the state for years, right? So it's been a challenge to get that in front of people and we had one county reject the people who have moved out of state as a challenge because they had no way to validate it. Well, that's unacceptable. That's completely unacceptable. It's not my job. It's not my job to point out the people who have voted, who have moved. You should be doing that. And your system, that's what our tax dollars go for. So if you want to get involved, Lynn will share how to contact us.
Right. So first thing I would just say, if anyone, is interested in joining one of our weekly calls, we do have a Thursday night Zoom we have it at 7:00 Eastern time. And you don't have to be from New Jersey to join us. We would love to see some folks, if you want to come on the call, hear what we're doing. We do have a lot of information to share, and we keep the meeting to about 1 hour long. So you can, if you'd like to do that, you can shoot us an email at info@citizens4njei.org. That's our email address.
I'll put
And
it in
our
the chat. I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Our website, if you'd like to also see some of the other things we've been doing, www.citizens4njei.org. And we are also on Twitter. We're pretty active on Twitter. The handle for Twitter is @citizens4njei. So connect with us on Twitter. We'd love to communicate with anyone here. We can share, collaborate, whatever. But we're going to see some things happening in the next year in New Jersey. So thank you, Steve, for having us.
Thanks a lot. So while we're finding Carlos Santos, who's the chair, I don't know if he's on yet. Is he on yet, Raj?
I'm here. Steve, I'm here.
Yeah, Carlos is
Okay.
on, and right before Carlos comes on, just want to again request your assistance, friends that are watching this, friends that are watching the replay on the network of podcasters all over the world. What makes all of this happen is a lot of effort, and so I'd like to ask you, especially with the holidays coming up, to consider helping support this. It's a very easy way to support us, and I'm going to show you one super easy way to do that. It's super stylish. You can see our model, Steve Stern, modeling some fantastic garments there. And if you're asking yourself, how do you get yourself some of those fabulous garments? It's super easy. Watch this video.
What defines the American spirit? Preserving life, liberty, and pursuing happiness. Caring for the nation we call home and its people. As patriots, it's our duty to drive the entrepreneurial spirit, pushing hard, reaching for success, sharing patriotism, because the American way of life is for all to live. The Flag Shirt, where freedom reigns.
Thanks, Raj. Just before we go on with Carlos, I'd just like to thank, today I'm going to thank during intermissions here and everything, a lot of people who are streaming this. We have Christy Given from the Hollywood Network, Tim Early from the True Perspective. I want to talk about Dale Richards from Caris Report. He contacted me. He's from Canada, and Canada in the administration is trying to pass a law where you cannot have free speech. We're going to try to get him on our next election security call to let everybody know about this. This is very dangerous what's happening. So I didn't want to go too much into it, but that he just contacted me yesterday. Dan Nunn out in California, he gets about 10,000 people on it. Daniel Walker in LA, one of the first people I was on our program, State of Freedom, excuse me. Doug Hageman, who I met from the Hageman Report, he streams it almost every time. Really a great guy. Ann Vandersteel, who'll be streaming it later this week. She's on vacation today. So not only we stream it today, but we get many, many people that stream it later all the way through the weekend. So this goes on for 4 or 5 days, and many, many people are able to see it. We want to get as many people to see it as possible, and that's how this keeps going on. So let's get our buddy on here, Carlos Santos, who I met a number of years ago in New Jersey. He's the chair of Union County. He and I have worked together in New Jersey for maybe 4 years. He's a leader there. He does a great job. And I want to thank him for coming on. Go ahead, Carlos.
How you doing, everybody? Steve, first, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to the show and for everything you guys are doing out there. I just kind of wanted to go over some of the stuff we got going on in the county. You know, we're definitely making an impact here in Union County, I can tell you that, and around the state. The RNC does have attorneys on the ground. They are helping us. We have the RNC, the NJGOP. We're having a fully functional organization running right now, which is nice for a change. As far as the election stuff, I think the biggest thing, like for us, we've always been completely offset in numbers, Republicans and Democrats, for poll workers. For the first time in history in Union County, I only have out of, I think, 460 voting locations on election day. I wasn't able to man 20 locations with poll workers. I was able to get equal representation in every single district except for the 20. As far as poll workers, I was able to recruit a ton of poll workers. So I think that definitely plays a big role of being able, having eyes in the locations on the ground. We also have 700 and something poll challengers this time around that we've never had before. We have 21 at-large challengers that we've put into place that are all election day attorneys that I have that volunteered their time to work with us. We've been doing Oprah requests every single day for all our reports. We're chasing VBM ballots down to where we're actually our return rates higher than the Democrats in the county. We have a full-blown operation that's working finally, and I'm excited to see it and be part of it, leading the effort with it. We have a great team. We did catch some stuff going, and I'll tell you what we've been doing. So every day I get a report of the VBMs that were returned. So I've been sending a text message to everybody that's still at large that has not returned their vote by mails. It's funny because I'm looking at the reports and I see, okay, this one apartment building within a day all returned 60 something vote by mail ballots. To me, it says, no, everybody didn't hit the box at the same time. Somebody was out there collecting them. Sent somebody in with a hidden camera, and we found that the person working the desk, actually admitted that some girl comes to pick him up. So we turned around and I kept sending texts to everybody who already had received it. I took that group of text and started sending text messages into it by case. And I actually got a resident of that building who responded and said, "Oh, I left my vote by mail ballot on my night table. Have the girl fill it out and put it back in the drop box or in the mailbox outside the building." So I flagged that to the attorneys and the Board of Elections that are my appointed Republican commissioners. That entire batch of VBMs has been pulled to be investigated. We are opening those ballots. Well, we will be there this week, I think tomorrow actually, to investigate every single one of those ballots. And I'm hoping that that whole building gets thrown out, you know, because they were all Democrat ballots that came in. So we're actually going to flag it, catch it, and see what's going on there. And then, you know, once that happens, we investigated another building that had the same kind of return. So I think the heavy text messaging into the buildings and chasing down the list works really well. I actually got somebody, it's not an affidavit, but it's got their voter ID, their information in a text message, and I have it in writing. So, you know, we're just trying to follow up and see from there what's going to take place with it. But I think we're going to be successful with that. And our big effort right now in the county is just pushing everybody out to vote. We need the numbers this year. I know everybody says wait till election day. I mean, I am an election day voter myself, but we got to drive up our numbers. And I know it's been complained about, but the thing that makes my job as a chair easier is I get a report every single day who voted the day before and who hasn't. I break it down. I almost can tell you Republican, unaffiliated, and Democrat votes that are in every district in my county. And I know which way the districts where I need to perform better and push more people out to the polls with it. And then election day, I get that report every 2 hours. So with that being said, every 2 hours, I drop it into a database. The database pulls everybody who voted off, gives me the ability to chase everybody else out that who has not voted yet to drive out turnout. And, you know, I think our numbers are looking good this year. We just got to get every single person we know we can get out to vote. And just to give everybody a little quick background about me, I should have done that in the beginning, but I became chair last year in June. I been working, basically involved since 2017. I was a union iron worker. I fell and broke my back and 4 vertebrae. And then I was sitting home and I said, you know what? I'm seeing what's going on. I'm tired of seeing that nobody doing nothing right. The party here had asked me to run for county commissioner. I ran and there was no support from the party. And I said, that'll never happen again. And from that day on, I started working to fill almost 600 committee spots. Well, actually now I'm over, but I filled almost 670 committee spots out of 800 in the county. That prior to me being chair, we only had about 240 of them filled. So I went into all the urban areas that had no representation, giving them a voice back, and have been very successful to get more people involved in building our party. And then when the chairmanship came up, I ran for it, got elected in it, and just honestly, grassroots on the ground, raising events. I've had Dan out here as a speaker at an event for me, Dan Schultz. You know, I've been working very hard in the state to try and make a big change. But if anybody has questions, I can answer. That's kind of where I'm at. I do have our UnionCountyGOP.org website. If you guys want to reach out, there's a form there, or anything else.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Appreciate it very much and good luck in the election. Next up is Charles Kiplinger. Alabama election integrity. For many years, I've been trying to get somebody in Alabama. We got him. He's the vice chair, Republican Executive Committee, and we're happy to have him. Come on down. Let's hear from you.
Charles is not on, so I suggest we go to John.
He's
Goodman.
on. He told me he was on. He's there
Copy
somewhere.
that. I'm looking for Charles. Charles, I don't see your name here. Yeah, I don't know if he's here under someone else's name, or if he dialed in.
Yeah.
I need to know his number so I can unmute him.
Hang on, Raj.
My name shows Kip.
His name shows as Kip.
Kip, stand by. Okay, found him. Stand by. Okay, Charles, go ahead and unmute. You're on, sir. Go ahead and unmute,
All right.
Charles. There you go. Great.
Thank you. Well, first off, I want to thank Steve for inviting me. This is my first podcast I've ever done. So it should be interesting. So a little background on myself. I retired from Uncle Sam after 32 years as a federal investigator. 15 of those I done computer forensics. And I even founded my own forensics company. And then, of course, after I retired, like most good employees, I went to work for a contractor where I done information assurance, securing classified systems and that type of stuff for weapons systems. Now I'm the vice chair of the county's Republican Executive Committee. I'm on the state executive committee. I'm the president of our North Central Alabama Republican Assembly and also the vice president of the state Republican Assembly. And I write op-eds for 1819 News where I call out weak voter turnout, push conservative values, and try to insert some common sense into the equation. And of course, like all of you probably know, you take politics and common sense and put them in the same box. It's like putting two cats together. Doesn't work most of the time. Today, I want to share with you what I've learned about election integrity here in Alabama. Several years ago, our Secretary of State at that time, John Merrill, called Alabama's elections the gold standard. And I didn't buy into that at that time. So I went out and I read all the laws for the state, for local and municipal elections. I read administrative codes for the probate judges.
Oh, is that what this is? Yeah, jollof. This is jollof. And if you want mashed potatoes, you could have some. Good. That's.
Yeah, I've worked as a poll worker, which is a grueling 14-hour day. And I've certified the voting and tabulation machines at the probate judge's office, where we done everything we could to try to throw off the votes or to jam the machines up and make sure the counts came out right. I've counted the provisional ballots and then accompanied the results into a vault where they were all finished tabulated and then taken to another computer where it was all put together, encrypted, and sent to the Secretary of State's office. And then if that wasn't enough, then I led a team that went out and we done a review of envelope 5, which if you're familiar with that, it contains the tapes from the tabulation machines, the ballot counting certificates and that stuff. And I went through the paperwork for 253 precincts. It was the first deep dive that had ever been done in over 30 years down here. And we went through these tabulation use for the precincts. We checked out the totals for ballots received, used, spoiled, and returned against the tabulation machine tapes. We made sure the version of the firmware on each machine was the same, and we copied down the serial number off each machine in case there was something that did show up. We could go back to that machine and check it. We get the total votes off of the poll books and checked the numbers against who'd signed in, against how many had actually voted. And the most common thing we found was the express votes, which is 50 votes that's set aside in a small machine for handicap. Those weren't accounted for. And then we had one county, the numbers were way off. And when we asked the probate judge what had happened, she told us that when she asked the guy about it, he was in his 80s, His only comment is, well, hon, I don't know. It's just what somebody told me. Which, that's not good. So he's not working the polls anymore. We had another county went to that 40% of the paperwork was missing. And the probate judge told us at the beginning that he was not going to go to the courts to try to get any paperwork back. And if Seth is still listening, that was one of his counties that he pointed out as being red down here. But overall, the probate judges were very helpful and interested in what we found. The numbers and everything that we found, they used it later to train new poll workers to try to head off any other problems. As to the machines, well, I say any machine comes out of the Northwest that requires a dedicated day for security updates is going to have problems. But from checking our machines here, they're air gapped. We use paper ballots. There's no Wi-Fi or active modems. And hacking them would take physical access or an insider. And according to the U.S. Election Assistance Commission's 2020 evaluation, we went through with flying colors. Alabama has 2,745 precincts. So that would mean you'd have to have someone that in the food chain to get to every one of those machines. I looked at other states, Georgia, where officials were alleged to mishandle data and ballots through the voting machines, sparking distrust. Michigan had similar issues, and human errors, not cyber attacks, that raised questions. Pennsylvania allegedly had votes coming out of New Jersey. I don't know if that's ever been verified or not. And it's just oversight on stuff. No evidence shows in Alabama's or the CIS's stuff that stands that gave us clean bill of health. And as a forensics guy, I know trust hinges on watching the people, not just the technology. I think that's the real threat in our elections today, really, is the people. We've got to keep a better eye on them and vet them better. Take our roles. Alabama had the ERIC system, and we got rid of it and created our own AVID system. And there's supposedly 500,000 people that was taken off the rolls of that. But then when I got to checking further and talking to some folks, when our registrars are still signing on to the system, they're not signing on to AVID. They're signing on to a data set in Omaha, Nebraska. So I'm like, is AVID just a employee type thing, or what's the deal with it? And I've contacted the chief of staff at the Secretary of State's office, and it's been crickets so far from them. So I hope to get an answer out of them. And with my background securing system, that was definitely a red flag. We got to know who's storing our data and why it's being stored there. And I've been in the trenches, the poll worker, certifying machines, counting ballots, checking thousands of records against the tapes. It's not glamorous. It's gritty work to protect every vote. But with Mobile's 2025 chain of custody issues, where paperwork got mishandled, show even honest mistakes hurt the trust. One careless or corrupt worker can undo it all. That's why we need more eyes on the process. They need to get involved and keep the insiders honest. Yes, while there's errors in the voting system, the real problem is candidate scrutiny by the parties. And the Republican Party educating the voter that, like in Alabama, it's the primaries that count. I think it was Seth had a information up there where showing states that had where you registered by party. That is something we're pushing for here in Alabama. We've got to account for that. We took and pulled cast voter records and went through the records. And just in my county where I'm at, we showed a 3.5% crossover vote from Democrats, polluting the outcome of our primaries. So that's got to be shut down. And we've got to educate the voter, and it's the primaries that count. And I'm a firm believer that good government starts locally. So what can you do? Join your local executive committees, attend county meetings. I've even put that into our bylaws at the county level for people to invite friends to come to the meetings and to join up. And you have to vote in every primary. And following Don Schultz's precinct strategy, pushing to fill vacant precinct slots. In my county, let's say I've got our bylaws set up, and you need to build a team to get this done. Check your candidates also. We've done background checks on candidates. Make sure they're who they said they were. And my 253 precincts viewed show we can catch errors, but we need to demand oversight of workers and vendors. Ask why our voters' data in Omaha and not Alabama, and why every system isn't fully audited.
Charles, 1 minute, Charles.
Okay. Let's keep our elections out of the hand of, I've now named them the Coven of the Donkey and their tech pals. Join your local GOP and our Republican assemblies and make sure every vote counts. Our motto is let your conscience guide your vote, but let knowledge shape your conscience. Vote informed. That's it for
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, we got to run, Joe. We got somebody else to go. We're very tight today. Thank you very much for everything. And
Thank you.
just let us know how we can reach out to you. You want to give everybody how to reach out to you?
NCAL@AOL.com.
Thank you very much. Next up, we got Mike Schwartz from New Jersey, author and host of the Mike Schwartz Show in New Jersey. He streams our show all the time. Good friend, great author. Come on down, Mike.
I'm here. I don't know if you can you see me?
We can see you. We can hear you.
All right, perfect. Everybody, welcome and great job, Kip, for your first podcast. I don't call it a podcast. I tell Steve this is a show. It's like TV. It's what we do. He calls me all the time and says, how's your podcast? I don't have a podcast, Steve. I have a show. Anyway, Steve Stern, one of the greatest American heroes. I tell you what, Steve, nobody works harder than you. I was just saying that on my show this morning. Good news is I'm in the reddest county. Well, one of the reddest counties of New Jersey. I grew up in Ocean County, and I now reside in Monmouth County. And I've had the fortune of watching elections in real time. I've run about 45 different campaigns. I've worked on 3 presidentials, done a lot of local stuff. And I will tell you that the votes that come out of Ocean and Monmouth County, I have a lot of confidence and faith that those work. Now, I was listening to Carlos earlier. He's up in Union. Now, those are the areas that we worry about the most. It's the Essex County, it's the Hudson County, Passaic. Those counties up North Jersey, we kind of always wonder what's coming out of there. Now, Jack Ciattarelli, and I've talked to most people around the state, they are pretty confident that we've gotten some of the issues under control, at least the stuff that we saw back in 2021. You remember we were going through COVID back then, and the mail-in ballots, we all know that there was a lot of hanky-panky going on with the mail-ins. Now, Jack Ciattarelli did not put himself in the position to really question it too much. He made a couple statements on the issue back then, but didn't want to pigeonhole himself into an area where he would get pushback. I think he knew he was going to run again. This is the 3rd time Jack has run, but the good news is we have the momentum right now in New Jersey. I cannot see us losing this. When you look at polls here, we typically under poll. Right now, they're neck and neck. One poll had her up 5 points. Another one had her up 1 point, and undecided voters, or unaffiliated voters, I should say, had Jack up by about 11 points in that margin. Right now, we got about 634,000 ballots that have already been cast in New Jersey. They are outpacing us 2-1. So that's a little bit scary. But as you know, Republicans tend to typically vote at the polls that day. We get into a situation here in New Jersey at this time of year. We don't know what the weather is going to be. We got another storm coming in. I would encourage everybody, if you're listening in the state, please get out early and vote. Bank that vote. You never know if you're going to have a flat tire, an illness in the family, something that day. We want every vote to count. When you look at vote, I was just talking to Jack about this. We had Jack on my show about a week ago, and I'm telling you, I've never seen anybody work harder in politics. I would put him at the level of a Steve Stern of what he's doing right now as far as how much he's getting out there. So I see you smiling, Steve. You know you work hard. You deserve the credit, buddy. Jack Ciattarelli, though, I've never seen so much momentum in the state. He is really working hard. The guy is everywhere, every day. He was gracious enough to come on our show. The one thing we talked about, and I'll throw this out there, is NRA members. We had 160,000 of them not vote in the last presidential cycle before this one. We had 250,000 of them registered in New Jersey who did not vote in the last gubernatorial cycle. If you just convert a small percentage of those votes out there, we win. And it's not so much the election integrity here in New Jersey. I've seen Ocean, I've seen Monmouth. I haven't seen the counties up north. I know they do a great job here in the red counties. As I said, I worry about the northern counties, but it is voter turnout. It is getting the folks out of bed to go out and pull those levers. I think there is so much dissuasion, I'll say that, Steve, with people here who think, we live in a blue state, it's just the way it's going to be, and I can't wait to move out, but I don't have enough money to do so. If you could just get your friends and family out to vote, the numbers are there in New Jersey. We typically have a Republican governor for 2 terms before we revert back to a Democratic cycle. And albeit they might be rhinos like Chris Christie and Christie Todd Whitman, but they're definitely better than the alternative. Well, what we've seen coming out of Mikey Sherrill's campaign this year has been, it's really just non-existent, is the best way I could put it. She is a pretty flawed candidate, but at the same time, people are sick and tired of Phil Murphy. We do not want to see a Phil Murphy 2.0. We do not want to see, we have the highest taxes in the nation. We don't even have plastic bags at the grocery store because Phil Murphy thought, he wanted to baby us over here. Jack is promising to bring not only the grocery bags back, but make it more affordable in this state to live. So I'm pretty happy with what I've seen. Steve and you talked about this offline, that the word coming out of New Jersey is that we're pretty confident that there isn't too much hanky-panky going on, especially now that the mail-in ballots are gone. But we need to make sure we train those poll workers. We need to make sure we train those challengers. I know a lot of people have a hard time getting them, but a lot of times they show up. I've had this happen over 20 some years of running campaigns. They don't really know what their job is. They don't know the process of challenging somebody. They don't know what to look for. They're basically just a warm body that is there at the precinct. So I would encourage all of our county chairs and precinct captains, everybody else, to make sure that those challengers are trained in what to do to make sure they're looking out for nefarious activity. And Steve, that's all I got. You can
Tell me how they reach you. You've got a great show and podcast and whatever you want to call it. But how do they listen?
Mike Schwartz Show on Rumble. That's our biggest viewership. We get about 1 million views a month. You could find us all over just by Googling the Mike Schwartz Show. The books are out. The first one is called Fauci's Fiction. Second one is Vaccine Fiction. The new book that just came out is called The Only Way to Save America, Trump 2.0, The Battle for Common Sense. And you can catch my show every day at 10 a.m. Eastern. We also do a night show, evening edition, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tonight, believe it or not, Steve, we're talking about COVID again because the audience wanted to hear. I don't know. I've talked about it ad nauseum after all these years, after 19,000 patients and 44,000 tests. But you can tune in tonight on Rumble. We'll talk about COVID, and then we'll do the fun stuff on the morning edition.
I know you have a lot of high-profile people on your show. Tell us a couple of people that have been on recently that are really good. Maybe the people go back and see it on Rumble.
Sure. I noticed you have Dr. Jerome Corsi coming on in a little bit. He's been on the show. We got a lot of authors, a lot of political figures, different Congress people. I was just in Washington on the Hill briefing Senator Ron Johnson. We just talked to Jim Jordan's office. So we're kind of all out and about. I don't like to do guests on the show, Steve. You know that. The nighttime we do guests. Steve Stern came on and talked. I think you did a full hour, and I didn't have to say a word. And I was prepped. Someone told me, Steve will take over your show, and you did a great job. You got so many people telling me they really enjoyed your appearance.
Well, thank you very much for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
You got it. Anytime.
Before we get our next guest on, want to tell you about a couple more people that are streaming it. George Ballantyne, Big Mig, he's one of the first people that came on. Lovely guy with his partner. They do a great job on streaming this. Jim Tinley, Patriot Pulse. Jody Cox, one of my good friends who I got on her show the first time. She got on my show first time. Just Jody, great person, really terrific. Larry Courtcamp, we talk about him a lot. OBVM Network is really expanding. They've been putting us on a long time. They got about 15,000 people on last time they had it. Hopefully they get more this time. Mary Stram, Wake Up to Truth Ministries. Todd Callender, a real good friend. Down in the Bahamas, Cloud Hub, they have streaming all over the country, so it's really phenomenal. Raj, we got about a minute. Do you want to say anything right before Colonel Conrad gets on?
No, Steve, that's good. Let's bring him on.
All right, so we now have Colonel Conrad coming on, Conrad Reynolds, CEO of avii.org, and the face of paper ballots in Arkansas. Come on down.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it so much. And I just got a couple of things. You know, I've been working in Arkansas for about 3 years, also in DC since February, trying to help push our agenda for paper ballots, hand-marked paper ballots, hand-counted throughout America, and to get rid of machines. I think that everybody will be happy, I hope, in the next couple of weeks after these elections of Virginia, New Jersey, and California. I think what you're going to see is some, I personally think there'll be exciting news that will come out. There will be no excuses after this not to have some major movement on getting rid of the machines. I think that is coming. I also want to tell you that I really respect and really like Kurt Olson, who has got a key position in the White House working for election integrity. And I think he's doing a great job. Everybody here ought to be thankful that he's there, because without him, there would be so much that would never get to the president. So I'm very, very happy about that. I'd like to talk a few minutes about what's going on here in Arkansas and a solid red state led by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I was targeted because of being the face of paper ballots. I was arrested 3 weeks ago under a misdemeanor charge, which basically said for a year ago, for the last election on November 5th, for exit polling. And my charge is I was just loitering, standing there. Supposedly, that's against the law here in Arkansas if you're within 100 feet. And mostly it's supposed to be for electioneering. But and exit polling should never be included in that. That's a First Amendment right that's been supported by the U.S. Supreme Court. But our Attorney General and our governor here have decided that they're going to go and after me for this. And the key thing here is that it is if convicted, the punishment is, believe it or not, a $2,500 fine, a 1 year in jail, and you will never, ever be able to run for political office in Arkansas again. So that is what they have done. But the ironic thing is, and what everybody needs to know, is that video just surfaced a few days ago that showed the governor doing the very same thing. She was in that 100-foot zone doing interviews and last year at the very same time, and yet they have not gone after her. They will not go after her, but they're using that law to go after me. So it is lawfare, absolutely plain and clear. Anybody can see it, and everybody has seen it. And there have been police reports. People have filed police reports in Little Rock against the governor for these for what she did. They said if he can punish Colonel Reynolds, you can punish her. But they refused to do anything, apparently, against her. But it's only me. And I'm the only one who's ever in the history been charged with this, ever. So this is lawfare continues. I want you to know that it is alive and well. People who are in power are trying to stay in power. And the one thing that I absolutely believe, and it's all because we were successful here in Arkansas. We had one county, Independence County. I don't know if y'all have heard of it, but it was the only county that we know of in America that actually was able to get enough signatures to get a question on their ballot how the people in the county wanted to vote, paper or by machines. They overwhelmingly, 63% said we want to vote with paper. And they are the second paper ballot county in Arkansas. And they were so angry. The establishment was so angry at that. They were trying to punish someone. And so yours truly is the guy they're punishing. We're going to win this. I'm not concerned about it. We're going to win it. But it just goes to show you the links that people are taking in order to save the machines, keep the machines in place at all cost. And so it's very disheartening in a lot of ways, but that's just the way it is in this political environment. And I don't care if it's Republicans or Democrats. They all apparently want to keep these, and we've got to fight against it, and I intend to do that. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Steve.
A little background on what you're doing, you know, other than that, I know you do more because we can never reach you. You got a few more minutes to come on before our next guest on. So
yeah. Well, what I do in real life is I'm a national security consultant. I have a top secret clearance. I've had one since I was 19, and I do take polygraphs. I do all of that, and I do consulting across the board at the national level. But over the last a couple of years, I've been working this because it's been so important. and particularly since February. I've been in DC for about the last 6 or 7 months, coming back on weekends, going up there, working, talking to the Congress, men and women in Congress and with the Trump administration, trying to get people to understand the vulnerabilities of these machines and why it's so important that we get a law quickly, something quickly before the primaries. The primary is the key for a lot of the states, like the red states. Cheating will happen in primaries, not necessarily the general, because we're a 70-30 state. And the same thing for the blue states. The cheating is going to occur in the primaries. So it's important that we get in place quickly. And I think around Thanksgiving is going to be the deadline. If we don't get it by Thanksgiving, I don't think we're going to be able to get the states to change quick enough. Like, for example, in Arkansas, our primaries held on March 3rd. So they got to have enough time to be able to switch gears, get rid of the machines, and go to paper ballots. It's easy to do paper ballots, but they want to make it like it's absolutely impossible, but it can. So that's what we've been working on day in, day out. You got some good people up there. Heather Honey's up there working at DHS. You got people who are trying their best to make a difference. But let me tell you, folks, there are a lot of people in D.C., in this administration, who do not want to have paper ballots. They're fighting against it. They're trying to find a way to have machines, and we've got to fight against that, I believe, and I intend to do that. But
Could you
thank
tell us,
Steve.
congressmen that are helping us, because a lot of people on this call always talk to me about senators and congressmen who are doing nothing for election integrity. Could you tell us a couple that you're working on?
Well, we helped write a bill. Pete Sessions has it, but what we found is that there are a lot of Congress people who say great things when they're out in front of the steps of the Capitol. But when you get in their office and you start talking to them, I'm not going to name names, but it would surprise you the number of people who are not nearly as strong on this issue as they sound like when they do sound bites. But when you talk to them, I've heard them tell me, man, these machine companies are very powerful here on Capitol Hill. I've heard that. They said, a lot of my colleagues don't want to get involved with it at all. We don't want to have the federal government get involved in state elections. We don't want to do that. We don't want to set the precedent for that. And so they're trying to find excuses and reasons, because they're all the beneficiaries, by the way, of this current system. They're in. Okay, they're in. And so so a lot of them don't have what it takes to fight against it, but they're going to have to, because I think some things will be revealed which will make it impossible for them to ignore. I don't know if y'all have read the book Stolen Elections. If you haven't, I encourage you to read it. It's a new book that just came out. I have it by Ralph Pizzulo. It is a great book. If you really want to see or hear and understand how these machines got their start, how the software got started that has been implemented in these machines, the DNA that currently exists in the computer programming code, you need to read this book, because you will be smarter than just about everybody else on this topic. And the people who are in it, the main people, Gary Burnson is a good friend of mine. I've known him for many, many, many years. And another guy by Martin Rodell, they both have been working on this for about 5 years. So the information in that book is critical. I ask that you also, if you want to know more about what we're doing, you can go to our website. It's avii.org, avii.org. You can follow me on X at Colonel Reynolds. At Colonel Reynolds, we post quite often, actually. And I just want everybody to know that the people in our state right now, remember these names: Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Cole Jester, he's our Secretary of State, Kim Hammer's a state senator, and David Ray. Those are the people that are fighting tooth and nail in our state, and they say they're all Republican. But I'm going to tell you, what they're doing is not Republican in my book, and the lack of integrity is astounding to me.
Thank you very much, Kurt.
Thank you.
We appreciate you doing. I know it's hard to get a hold of you sometimes, but I know you're in DC. We appreciate everything you're doing. Have a good one. Have a good holiday. You got it. Want to thank Norm Bashley from TotalNews.com, a good friend of mine from San Diego who streams us. YourNews.com, Sam Anthony. I'm an investor in there. You all want to look at www.yournews.com. One of the biggest companies that I've seen grow. Millions of people read his column every day. I want to thank Ohio Brett, a good friend of mine, Bright on TV. Dr. Naomi Wolf, who many of you see all over the place. She's streaming us today. Mick Rosado, Conservative Consortium, Mike Dakak from Freedom's Speech. So you see many people are streaming this. We'll give you more. We want to recognize them because there are hundreds that are helping us get this message out. It's not only on Zoom, it's on every platform that we could possibly find. And if you know any platforms it's not on, let me know. You can see the replay on Stern American. It's live there. We can also see the replays of all the other ones. Now we're going to bring on one of our famous people, the founder of the Tea Party, Jenny Beth Martin, who is doing a bus tour to stop illegals from voting. We appreciate everything doing. Jenny, you on there? You got
Yes,
radio.
I am.
She's only got
I
a few
am.
minutes.
Thank
Go
you
ahead.
so much. Thanks so much for having me, Steve, and thanks for everyone who participates in these calls. We did with Tea Party Patriots Action, we did a bus tour in the month of September, well, in August and in September. So it was almost 4 weeks. We went from California all the way to North Carolina, then from Wisconsin to Washington, D.C. So we covered the country 1.5 times. And I'm going to just very, very quickly show a video that recaps what we did, and then I'll come back and say another couple of words. So if I can share my screen, I'm going to do that.
Who should decide America's future? At Tea Party Patriots Action, we believe it must be only citizens, and thanks to your support, we've led the charge to make that principle the law of the land. And Americans agree. Our polling revealed that 87% of Americans believe that only citizens should vote. Jenny Beth Martin took this fight to the airwaves, highlighting the issue on her nationally recognized podcast. With your help, Tea Party Patriots Action worked with Congressman Chip Roy to draft and introduce the SAVE Act.
Look, this is common sense stuff. 87% of Americans believe it. Only American citizens should vote. Pass the SAVE Act.
We partnered with Senator Mike Lee to introduce it in the Senate.
When only citizens vote, your vote truly counts.
And we worked with Speaker Johnson to pass the bill in the House of Representatives.
The bill is passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Well, you know, it takes a lot of effort to get the grassroots engaged and informed and energized. And I'm really grateful for the Tea Party Patriots and all the millions of supporters around the country that are helping us push this through.
But we didn't stop in Washington. Your generous support allowed us to equip local groups across America with signs, toolkits, talking points, and presentations, empowering citizens to spread the message in their own communities. Your support empowered us to conduct a nationwide bus tour, span 16 states and the District of Columbia, USA! Ending with a powerful rally on Capitol Hill. Along the way, we gathered over 50,000 citizen signatures demanding Congress pass the SAVE Act. Together, we are making history, and it is your support that makes it possible. With your continued partnership, Tea Party Patriots Action will keep defending election integrity and ensuring that only citizens vote in America's elections.
The work that we did on that bus tour would not have been possible without the supporters like all of you who participate in Steve's calls, in Cleta Mitchell's calls, and have worked in your own local and state communities to help us secure elections. We're trying to fill one piece of the pie, working on the SAVE Act. And we're doing a few other things, and I'll mention those in a minute. But I just want to thank every one of you for participating and caring so much about this issue and continuing to care about it, even though we have President Trump in the White House, and right now the Republicans control the House and the Senate. You understand that we have to have solid elections and have faith in the outcome of our elections, no matter who is in power, and you're not giving up on that. And I personally appreciate you, and I thank you for your help that you gave us while we were on the bus tour, and that you give every single day working on all of the election integrity issues. We're also working, So we delivered 50,000 signed petitions to Capitol Hill in favor of the SAVE Act, which is a bill that will require proof of citizenship to register to vote. We will continue pushing to get the SAVE Act passed into law after we get through this government shutdown. And then in the meantime, we've also been helping recruit poll watchers in Georgia and in Virginia for the elections that are happening right now. And then as we go into next year, we will continue doing that kind of recruitment for poll watchers, for election integrity activists. And if you've got a local election integrity group or a state election integrity group, and you're not getting information from us, let us know your contact information, reach out to us, let us know your contact information so that we can make sure if we get people who reach out to us who are active or want to be active in election integrity in your local area, we can help connect you. And with that, one more thing. We're watching very closely the information that is coming out related to Arctic frost. I'm not sure if anyone else has spoken on that or if you're hearing this like for the 10th time during this call, but we are watching it very closely. I'm sure some of you who are participating right now were on the list that came out yesterday, the 198-page list where the government and the FBI were targeting many of us around the entire country, and that investigation wound up triggering what happened in Fulton County, Georgia, and in other states around the country with the prosecution, well, not the prosecution yet, but the persecution and the indictments of the electors and other people. And so I just want to make sure that you guys know we're watching that. There may be calls to action that we can take on that in the coming weeks and months. And if they are, we'll put those on our website. You can check our website out by going to teapartypatriots.org. And if you are a local leader and want to make sure that we have the information about your local group, please just shoot me an email. You can send that email to jenny.beth@teapartypatriots.org.
So Jenny Beth, tell us a little bit about, when you start, how many years ago did you start the Tea Party?
We started the Tea Party 16 years ago. In 2009, we started out with about 24 people on a conference call. A week later, we had 48 tea parties with 35,000 people in attendance. 6 weeks later, we had the Tax Day Tea Parties with over 850 tax day tea parties and 1.2 million people in attendance. And then in September of that year, 16 years ago, we had the 9/12 Taxpayer March on DC with 1.5 million people. We have continue to stand for personal freedom, economic freedom, and a debt-free future. And election integrity is critical to be able to protect those other freedoms.
Can you put up your information or tell everybody about how they can join, how they can get together with you? Because you do such a great job and you're so busy, you don't get on all the shows all the time because you're so busy.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, like we just crisscrossed the country and we planned that in like 6 weeks time. That was a little crazy on our part actually. But yes, so I'll make sure that it is in the comments, and then my website is teapartypatriots.org, teapartypatriots.org, and you can email me by emailing Jenny, JENNY .Beth, BETH @teapartypatriots.org.
Thank you very much for coming on today. We appreciate it. Have a nice Thanksgiving if we don't speak before. So we want to thank
Thank you so much.
Got it. We want to thank SG Annan Q News, who gets like around 15,000 people watching this thing. Todd Wood, who gets about 10,000 out of Atlanta. CDM Press Global News. Lyle Rapaki out of Arizona. Randy Marcel and Darren Ross. Patriots with Grit. And many, many other people that we don't mention. We can't mention everybody, but we try to mention different people all the time. Anybody who would like to stream this, please get a hold of Raj or myself. You can get a hold of me by sstern1054@gmail.com, or you can come on our site, Stern American Rumble, leave a message, go to theflagshirt.com to leave a message. And tomorrow, we are having all podcasters on with Michelle Swinick is going to have an event. If you're listening and you want to get a hold of it and get on tomorrow, I will contact everybody in the morning. We are introducing podcasts to other podcasters because really the news that comes out today is on podcasting. Many people on Real America Voice, on Cloud Hub, X, every place that's going on. So our next guest is Greg Stenstrom, one of the great guys of election integrity. We try to get him on as many times as we can. He always has great information about Pennsylvania, writes books, does everything, has probably more lawsuits than anybody that I know. Greg, come on down.
Hey, how you doing, Steve? Thank you very much for having me on today. I been pretty busy. I still owe, from the last call, there were a couple of people here that I still owe responses to, and I promise you I'll get back to you this week. Been a busy time here in Pennsylvania. Actually, I just got off a phone call, and first time I'm not super prepared for a call, but or the Zoom call. But here in Pennsylvania, I'll start with the election front. We've been filing lawsuits for since 2020, and we have actually won quite a few suits. We were co-defendants, Leah Hoops and myself were co-defendants with President Trump in 2 defamation suits, and we won that pro se. We were sued again for defamation with Newsmax and Hogan Gidley and Margot Cleveland and some other people. We won that one pro se. We filed a number of other lawsuits that we are winning pro se or have won pro se. But what we found in the courts across the country, whether it's Andy Thompson in Nevada, whether it's United Sovereign and their efforts across the country, and ourselves here in Pennsylvania, we've got a good group of patriots here. I'm going to give a shout out to a guy named Mike Miller, who you may not have heard of, but he has been at the forefront of filing election lawsuits pro se. What we found is that the lawyers that have been filing have, most of them were threatened and disbarred. Most people are familiar with John Eastman's case, and you got Peter Navarro, but you've got quite a few cases where the lawyers that were representing people were disbarred, and it left us to fight these things pro se. So I've written a book, and it's called I Stand on My Briefs, Pro Se Legal Warfare. Steve's got a copy of it, an early copy. I'll be releasing that in the next couple of weeks. And it basically takes all the tactics and strategies and how to put together winning lawsuits pro se. So that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll get that out to everybody, and hopefully the next call you'll have that. But what we found is, a lot of people here question litigation, but litigation works. You heard me about starting a year ago, talking about the CIGI, the Council for the Inspectors General for Integrity and Efficiency, CIGI, called the Council. And it's comprised of the Inspector General, the FBI, Director of the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney General. So we sued in a key TM lawsuit in March of this year. We named the Inspector General Horowitz, Barr, Comey, Garland, Wray. We named 117 defendants. And while that case is it's in progress, what I can report today is of the 117 defendants, 65 of them have been terminated or resigned, 65 of them. And as of 2 weeks ago, the CIGI was defunded. The CIGI has been in existence for 50 years, and it was the control mechanism where they quashed investigations and quashed criminal investigations on election fraud. We have hard physical evidence of that, hard proof, emails, FOIAs, and so forth, disclosures from people who are, at the deputy director level and senior executives throughout the government. The suit is doing quite well. It's at least having its effect. They won't rule on it, but it's having an effect. So those who say that litigation, is questionable, it doesn't work, I would venture to say that you're incorrect, and litigation does work. The media works. These types of calls obviously are important, and the media is an important part of what we do. These podcasts and what Steve Stern does is invaluable to getting the message out. But where the rubber meets the road and where things actually get done is in the courts. I'm going to give you a statistic here. 97% of pro se lawsuits fail. They are only 3% of people are successful in pro se lawsuits. Surprisingly, over 70% of cases in the United States are pro se. So that means 97% of 70% of all cases are rejected. At the Supreme Court level, over 70,000 cases are filed per year, going to the Supreme Court with writs of certiorari, writs of mandamus. Of 70,000 pro se litigants who file with the Supreme Court, they hear less than a couple of dozen. So anybody who thinks there's, equal justice or equitable justice, that is a falsehood. And of criminal defendants, 99% of criminal defense pro se lose. Less than 1% of criminal defendants win. I see statistics across the country. We have a DA here, Stolzheimer. You'll see DAs across the country, many of them who are sadly corrupt. We have attorney generals who are corrupt, and they run. And one of the things they run on is we have a 100% conviction rate. It's a horrifying number when you think about it. When a DA or an attorney general says, I have a 100% conviction rate, people should be horrified with that. If 99% of pro se litigants are being, losing, and 97% of pro se civil litigants are losing, and DAs and attorney generals have 100% conviction rates, we have a problem with the court systems. It's a dire problem. Now, we were successful in getting rid of the SIGI, a small group of us. We got rid of them, and the next thing we're going after is dirty judges. One of the biggest problems here is in the United States right now is judges who are politicians in robes. What we want, there are good judges out there, but they're overshadowed by these corrupt judges. In order for Trump to prevail in 2026 and for our country to continue to move forward and heal, we've got to go after these judges who rule against the law, who rule what they call sua sponte, ultra vires, void ab initio. They enter these crazy rulings, and they'll rule against Trump, and some district judge will rule against the president of the United States. We have cases, election cases, that can't move forward and won't move forward because of dirty judges, and we need to clear that out. We've been working here across the state with multiple cases. For those of you who follow Joe Hoft, I don't know if Joe's on today. I think he's on after me. Joe just published a case of a 102-year-old woman who is in excellent condition, rode an exercise bicycle 5,000 miles a year. And I was horrified. She died, and she went in for a two-day procedure. She wanted to leave the hospital, and because of some state agencies, they held on to her. What I've come to find out is there's a $275 billion industry of the medical kidnapping of elderly. That case may seem like it's not related to elections, but what we've got across multiple venues and at all levels of the courts, common pleas courts, commonwealth courts, superior courts, federal courts, district courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court, we have problems with politicians in robes, and we have problems with clerks that are politically appointed quashing these cases. As most of you know, most of the election cases that have gone through have been quashed or are in stasis. Right now, we've gone from, if people ask about litigation, we've gone from 97% of people losing to a condition of stalemate. So what we've got now is we have multiple cases all the way to the Supreme Court at every level related to elections. We got, like Steve said, I think we have over 50 cases across the country, and all of them, without exception, have been sitting in courts for up to 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 8 months, and they're sitting there. The reason they're sitting there is they won't let us win. That's a stalemate, where they've lost their cases. We've perfected the ability to present winning lawsuits, And now we've gone from a case where before they could just dismiss us to a case where the only thing they can do now is ignore us. So what you're going to see here, and I think a lot of people that are on this call, quite a few of you are involved in litigation and pro se litigation. We're here to help. I'm here to help. Patriot Online, patriot.online. We're here to help. I want to hear from you. I know I owe some of you here on this call. I owe you information on some of the cases that we're working on, but I want to give you hope and also give you news that we've filed cases regarding the election machines. In Pennsylvania, not a single election machine has been certified. Not a single machine in Pennsylvania is authorized to be used in elections. I filed a large lawsuit here in Delaware County and in the state stating such and proving that none of the election machines are certified. They won't respond. They won't rebut. They won't respond at all. They won't schedule a hearing. We're going to continue to press that, but the elections in Pennsylvania, and I think across the country in many cases, are using election machines that are not certified. We've proven that they have malicious code in them. We've proven that they aren't running the proper tests. We've proven and got admissions from the Secretary of the Commonwealth in Pennsylvania that the machines aren't certified. They're not allowed to be used. We also filed similar litigation on mail-in ballots, and we can show proof that 70% of them, 70% are fraudulent. 70% of mail-in ballots are fraudulent. They're either coming from unqualified electors or they have fraudulent signatures and fraudulent people that they're voting for, that we can absolutely show they're fraudulent, that they're being injected in the system to change elections. We filed that lawsuit. That lawsuit has been ignored. We filed similar litigation last year about the machines and the mail-in ballots. And what the courts came back with is, while the federal court admitted that the machines were compromised, they said it was speculative that they would be used for cheating. That's where we stand right now. And this year we cured that. And we have the new lawsuit saying that says you don't get a choice you don't have the discretion to say that it's speculative whether they're going to be used for cheating. We all know damn right well they're cheating. So we've gotten to a point in this country, and I know I only have a couple of minutes left, where I'm talking in general. I'm sorry I'm not prepared with specifics, but what we've come to is a crossroads in the country where the courts are not judicial systems, they're not justice systems, they're control systems. And they're using them at state and local levels to control elections and promote criminal enterprises where they can medically kidnap the elderly, they can kidnap children, they can take assets and sell people's inheritances, they can sell their houses. And what we have is many cases, at least here in Pennsylvania, we have a criminal enterprise masquerading as a government. Now we're exposing that across multiple fronts. We're supporting dozens of lawsuits, not only just ours, but we're helping people across the country. That's why I'm late today. I'm helping another business that was stolen from the owners by lawyers and judges, and helping that person get that straightened out. But until we get these courts functional again, then we will continue to have stolen elections. Where this is going to come to a head is we're going to provide President Trump the information that he needs to address this, to address the judges. What President Trump is going to have to come from an executive level, where President Trump is going to have a special prosecutor and a special prosecution team go after these corrupt judges and go after corrupt courts so that we can get them functioning again. If we don't fix that, and the reason it's of great interest to the people here is if we don't fix that, the 2026 election will be decided in the courts. And if President Trump doesn't help us reclaim those courts, our country continues to be in jeopardy until we can fix that. So I've only got, what do I got here, Steve? A minute left?
Yep, 1 minute.
So in the 1 minute I have left, I want to say that there's when Joe Hoft comes on, I don't know if he'll mention it, but we have a 102-year-old woman who was quite frankly, I'll say, it was murdered. And they are currently today, I've been scrambling to keep them from cremating the body and the remains of that woman to prevent an autopsy. So that's what what I've been busy with today. But you can go to GiveSendGo/Marian, MARIAN. The litigant there, her son needs some help, and I'd appreciate it if you'd consider that. And also for Patriot.online, we do have a donate button. We need some donations. We need some help. It's very expensive, as most of you know, to prosecute these. Virtually all the money goes to creating the infrastructure and the artificial intelligence that we're using, and it goes to actually funding the lawsuits and promoting and election integrity and moving forward. I would say this, anybody here, and I apologize again for some of the people here I do owe phone calls to and emails. It's been a busy couple of weeks here with the elections and some of these other things, but if you can contact me at gstenstrom@xmail.net, you can go to patriot.online and reach me there as well. I'll post my email here. If you email me and you are a patient, I will get back to you and help you address your problems and address pro se litigation that will help you resolve your problems in your local districts. And I'll close this with keep up the fight. And the reason you should keep up the fight is we are winning. The tide has turned from where they were able to quash us 5 years ago to the point where active patriots that are on this call and people that Steve Stern has gathered and the podcasters that support us, we are making a difference. We are making a difference where at least we've got them at a stalemate. In some cases, we're pushing them aside. What I expect in 2026 to close this is what I expect is that no election machines will allow to be used, if not at all, only ones that are certified will allow to be used. That will go a long way to solving the election problems. And we have to get rid of mail-in ballots altogether. And I think President Trump is well aware of that. We're going to provide him the hard evidence that he needs to ensure that we don't use mail-in ballots anymore. We're the only country that I know of, I think maybe a couple of other, but we're the only large country in the world that uses them. They have to go away. I thank you for your time. I thank Steve Stern for his continued support. It's been amazing. Raj, I thank you. I know you're behind I haven't seen you yet on the here today, but I can't thank you enough. I can't thank the Patriots here enough for everything that you do. Thank you very much.
You got it. Next up is Joe Hopp, Gateway Pundit. Hopefully he's got some news from Tina Peters. We forgot to mention her. We don't want to ever leave her out of our thoughts. A 70-year-old woman in jail for 9 years. Ridiculous. Spoke to Peter Tickton over the weekend. He says they're working on it. Everybody's working on it, but it's seems like a stalemate. Same thing that our good friend Greg Stenstrom is saying. So we're hoping something happens here in the next month. Joe, come on down.
Hey, Steve, it's great to be here again, and great to see Greg and everybody there. I'm sitting here today in Southern Florida with somebody many of you may recognize. It's Enrique Tarrio, who was one of those individuals that was targeted by our government, a Proud Boy, and arrested and put in prison for 20-some years, and he wasn't even at the January 6th protest. So I'm going to turn over to Enrique for a minute. He's got to run on another call. I had him here with me. We're working on a movie that'll be coming out hopefully early next year regarding the Proud Boys and the absolute tyranny that they faced on all of our behalfs. And Enrique's got a movie of his own coming out here about the same time. So Enrique, what do you got to say?
I think it's important. I think you guys talked about Tina Peters, not to forget those people that are still the weaponization of the government as a whole. Obviously, Tina Peters is at a state level, but it is the government that is persecuting her. Not to forget her and a bunch of J6ers that are still in prison, even after the pardons. So it's an uphill battle right now, and I think the administration's on our side. So we just got to keep getting loud, and we got to keep advocating for those people. Because as we're out here enjoying, each other's company here on a Zoom, there's many American citizens that are still in prison. So I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you, Joe, for advocating for those people. And I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Thanks, Enrique. Appreciate it. No, it's a real honor to be with these guys. I've heard some incredible stories already today as we've interviewed some of these guys that were Proud Boys. They go to the Capitol And then one guy was arrested on January 20th of 21st of 2017. And the day after, I guess, Biden stepped into office, and he was there for exactly 4 days, got out on the 20th of this year. The stuff these guys went through, the horrors that they saw in these prisons they were put in. At least one of these guys already told us about how, they saw people getting murdered in those places. And it's just something that seems to almost sound like it happens more common than we could ever imagine. The horror of what these guys had to go through because they were like us. They were standing up for America, for this country, for President Trump, and against this stolen election. I've mentioned to all these guys how I've written these books on the 2020 steal, and President Trump gave me a real great compliment. Roger Stones has said some great news as well about my books, and that's what it came down to. This is why we're doing what you're doing here today, is focusing on the election. And there's still a lot of work to do. My understanding is President Trump will be coming out with an executive order real soon. There's a lot of work being done on a new executive order. As far as Tina Peters goes, the latest on that front is she had a hearing about 10 days ago, maybe 11 now, where they met in front of a federal judge, and there's an effort to try to get her out of that state court system because President Trump can't pardon her there, even though it looks like the whole operation, just like it seemed to have been done, coordinated against these Proud Boys, it was also coordinated against Tina Peters. We know that Merrick Garland and Chris Wray were even on a conference call with the people of Mesa County and the people of the state of Colorado right before she was first indicted. And they came up with these charges on a state level, threw her in prison, and she sits there for doing her job. Her job was to ensure that the records from the election were kept and maintained.
Thank you, guys. I'll be back.
And she did her job, and for that she ends up getting arrested and thrown in prison, as you all know. So 11 days ago or so was this last hearing. It was in the federal court, and what happened was the judge, apparently some people that were there thought he seemed open-minded and a bit moved by what was going on, and he said he would get back in a week, recognizing that Tina's currently in prison. We haven't heard back from that judge yet. It should be any day, any hour. And I put something up this morning at joehoff.com where it's just like, let's pray, keep our prayers for that judge and for Tina, so that maybe he will give us a good ruling. At the very least, she shouldn't be in prison. This lady's never committed a crime in her life. And that's the first steps. Get her out of prison so she can see her mom again. I think I've told you guys before, her mom wrote me in response to an article once saying, hey, I was really moved by your piece when Tina said, hey, if something happens to me, I'm not suicidal. And this lady says, I'm Tina's mom. I'm 95 years old. And can you get this to President Trump? So I think President Trump's well aware of Tina's case. We'll see what happens here. Really, could be within hours, could be within days, what this federal judge will rule, and whether he'll rule with Tina's team in their efforts to really basically move this to the federal court, into that system where she'll get a more just ruling, and maybe we can get her out of prison. So that's what's going on there, Steve. It's always an honor to be with you and everybody here. It's appreciate what you do. Incredible work that's been done in the last 4 years. It's really exciting to know that President Trump is our president now, but we've got a lot of work to do, like Greg's just shared too. A lot of work to do. We've got to keep fighting every day. Couldn't have been a better saying by anybody maybe in history than fight, 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 when President Trump stood up after getting shot with blood on his face and says that. And I don't know if you guys see, but the whole world is celebrating Trump. He's been over in Asia this week, and he's getting awards. He got an award from Korea today that they've never given to an American before. In Japan, he was praised. Throughout Southeast Asia, he is treated like an American president should be, and better than any president ever has been. So it's really a blessing that we have President Trump now. But I do think, like Tario said and others, there's January 6ers out there. There's Tina Peters that's still in prison. We have to keep shining the light on that, as well as shining the light on the crimes, and in our effort to ensure that we ultimately have justice and bring it back into our country. So anyways, that's it. Steve, anything else on your end?
Appreciate everything you're doing. Your great paper. You want to tell everybody how they can get on and get a subscription?
Yeah, so you can follow me at joehoff.com. I also share a number of my stories at the Gateway Pundit with my brother Jim. And like I said, we're going to be doing this movie. It'll be coming out hopefully earlier next year. Really focusing on the Proud Boys, what they went through. You can also follow me on the most social media. But thanks for everything, you guys, and keep it up. And thank you, Steve.
You got it. Next, we got the famous Dr. Jerome Corsi. Take me a half an hour to introduce him, so we'll just get him on. He's got some great information.
Steve, it's great to be with you. The information is, I can affirm what Joe Hoff said, is that work is going on in the White House right now on a new executive order on election integrity. And if you go to gods5stones.com, which is the 501c3 that I created with Dr. Carla Dean Graves, that's G-O-D, no apostrophe in the S, and 5 is spelled out F-I-V-E as a word, and stones is plural, gods5stones.com. You'll see the work done by Andrew Paquette and myself to expose these algorithms, State Board of Elections, that allow you to create millions of false records that yet get legitimate state IDs and can be used in mail-in ballot schemes. We exposed this in 2024, and the mail-in ballot schemes were not used, the algorithms were not used at the presidential election. So recall, all the battleground states in 2024 quit counting the night of election and reported for Trump. We'd have caught them if they'd have continued the counting, reduced the mail-in ballots like they did in 2020. And Donald Trump has now hired staff in the White House whose job it is to expose, starting now, that the 2020 election was stolen. He just gave a speech this past weekend and mentioned that we need voter ID, we need proof of citizenship. We're going to get the end to this universal mail-in ballot, go back to the absentee ballot system, and get rid of the computers, because the computers can be rigged and hacked. And since China has hacked the computers of our elections, Donald Trump is able to declare this new executive order an emergency declaration under his powers as commander-in-chief and demand that the states go to voter ID and proof of citizenship to vote. And if the states don't do this, Donald Trump's increasingly putting the military, National Guard, and troops into the cities. We might just well have the military run the 2026 election if the Democrats don't want to play fair. And I think we're also going to get a Supreme Court decision which will say that you cannot use race to do congressional districting. And the Democrats, if they have to face a legitimate election, could lose half the seats they have in the House and half the seats in the Senate. And I think this is what's coming. Donald Trump is serious about this. And I can attest firsthand, I've been briefed, and the new executive order is being written. And I think it'll be issued very soon, and people, I think, will be very pleased to see that Donald Trump is serious about getting our elections under control, where we know who's voting, we know there's citizens who are voting, we know who they are, and they have to be able to produce IDs, no motor voter, where you can get a green card and then you automatically get a registration to vote. And states like Wisconsin are leading the charge. A judge in Wisconsin has already ruled the Wisconsin Election Commission has got to go through the database and demand proof of citizenship of everybody who votes. And that's being contested, but there's a dozen states in which the federal government has been actively involved And you're going to see indictments coming out of this. This is no longer fun and games and politics. This is crimes being committed in the states. And the various election officials, I think, are going to face very serious charges. But from all the briefings I've gotten, the work I've done, I think that Donald Trump is in charge here, and he's following the plan that he set out in March with his first election integrity executive order. And I think this one's going to be definitive and strong. So that's basically my report, Stephen. I think it's encouraging information, and I think if you look carefully at the releases of Tulsi Gabbard and others recently, you're going to see that the president is getting the word out, especially about the 2020 election being stolen.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Corsi. We'll be back on in December, and we'll have you, hopefully you'll have an update, and hopefully we'll have an executive order that you've worked on along with Peter Tickton and John Goodman and I guess General Flynn and everybody else who's been connected with it. So thank you for all your great work. I know you do phenomenal work. I know you've just been on the radio for an hour, so you must be tired. So we're going to have our last guest on, Wade Miller, Senior Advisor for Renewing America.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. You know, it's been great to listen to everyone. I've been listening the whole time. I've been on the road and I just got back to my office. But I started looking at census policy, not from an election integrity perspective. There's a lot of things we need to get right in census policy. The citizenship question. Of course, there was movement on this issue. In the last administration, they ran into Administrative Procedure Act issues, meaning basically they didn't start some of these reforms soon enough. And they ran into some technical roadblocks into getting those things done and into the last census. So we're looking at the census, right? And I'm, again, not looking at it from election integrity perspective. And we run across something called differential privacy. And some of you may have heard of this by now because we've been pushing a lot of stuff and there's been some national movement on this. But we found this last January. And I am conspiracy theory averse only because a lot of members of Congress rely on my input being defensible and accurate. So we really spent 4, 5, 6 months looking at differential privacy. And here's basically what we found. And this is the end run around everything else. If we get every single other election integrity thing right, this is their security clause for how they basically game the system and weaponize the census to essentially undo a lot of what we were trying to do on the rest of the election integrity sphere. So basically, if you're thinking of the census in terms of how does it normally work? Well, you hire a bunch of people, they ask a bunch of questions, they collate the data, they double check it, and assuming that those counts are correct, and by the way, in 2020, those counts were terrible, but assuming those counts are correct, they send that data to the states. And then the states use that data for apportionment, and then they use it for redistricting. Well, what we discovered is so basically the way the data is structured normally is that you have statewide data, and that data is supposed to be accurate. And then you have county level data, census tract level data, block group level data, and then blocks, census blocks. And so basically that's how it's supposed to work. What they did in 2020, a whole bunch of Obama era bureaucrats did this. The statisticians, they were running this guys through an algorithm called differential privacy. And they basically inject noise into the data before they give it to the states now. And how does that work? Well, and I'm getting ready to get to the really crazy stuff. And also there's good news at the end of this. But basically the way that they did it in 2020, these Obama bureaucrats, is that they took the data, the statewide data is still technically in theory accurate. Everything below that now has noise injected into it. So basically what they were doing is they were moving population data around and they were doing it under the guise of privacy. And for a variety of statistical reasons, this was disproportionately moving population numbers from rural areas of states into cities. And it wasn't a little bit, it was a lot. In fact, the allowable movement, so the average block is 105 people. Some blocks are bigger, some blocks are smaller, but the average is 105. They were allowed to inflate or deflate population data up to 19.68 people per block, which means that a quarter of the population is, and potentially across the entire country in every state, is wrong. And we only stumbled across this because we were looking at it and we started having conversations with statisticians because I'm not a math expert. I had a lot of questions. but we spent 6 months confirming it. Basically, what these census bureaucrats did is, under the guise of privacy, they were moving population data around. Now, for statistical reasons, if you have a low population number, you have to move more people in order for it to be statistically protected from a privacy standpoint. It's a law of large numbers. If you have a block with 1 million people and a block with 50 people, you need to manipulate the block with 50 people more to protect privacy, or else the algorithm can be reverse engineered. So what this means is that the census bureaucrats picked the most advantageous way of solving the privacy problem that moved a ton of population into the cities. And also, by the way, they didn't ask the citizenship question. They blocked that effort and fought it every inch of the way. So we uncovered this. We wrote a big paper on it. We read in Russ Vogt at OMB. We read in Howard Lutnick at Commerce. I just had a personal meeting with Jim Bakes 2 weeks ago. He sent a letter to Howard Lutnick. We coordinated with America First Legal, who has filed a federal lawsuit, and I think the 8th District. And the reason this is important is because, think of it this way. So they're blocking the citizenship question. Why? Because they don't want us to know this for a variety of reasons. But if you take there's an open debate for apportionment purposes on who you have to count. You may have to count legal immigrants, but you might not have to ask illegal immigrants. But certainly for redistricting, there is no requirement that you count either of those populations. So the way it currently works is illegal and legal populations are counted for purposes of redistricting in virtually every state. And the populations for these groups are overwhelmingly in cities. So what this means is that the census data has been sent to the states, and then they are using these elevated and weighted populations in the cities. And if you're a blue state, what do? Well, you carve out rural areas and deprive them of representation because you've got so much weighted population in the cities. And if you're in a red state, you try to carve out the areas of the cities and combine them with large rural districts to deprive the left of districts. Well, if the population is overwhelmingly weighted and differential privacy is fakely moving population to urban centers, then it makes redistricting really hard. It's weaponizing and completely abusing the census process. And here's the kicker. The only people that know what data really is are a handful of people in the Census Bureau that have a top secret clearance to get to this. Now, the good news is Lutnick is on it. America First Legal's filed a lawsuit. We're doing everything we need to do to get everything in place. If we get this right in the 2030 census, you're looking at potentially, combined with the majority minority districts in the Supreme Court, voting the right way in our favor on that, because that's 18 districts right there. Let's just conservatively say we'll get 12 of those. I think you'll actually get 17 or 8, maybe even all of them, and make them red districts. You've got, let's just conservatively say 12. I think that, and we're doing an analysis right now, 50-state analysis on if you account for the differential privacy weaponization of the data in the census, you may actually be netting another 15 to 30 seats for Congress for the next decade. So that's a 30, 40 seat swing if you get all of these policies right. And then on top of that, what we want to do with the data, if we get all of this right, is we want to have it so that the federal government only sends states citizen data for the purposes of redistricting. So in other words, they don't really have an option. We're not going to send them the total population data for redistricting. They'll have that for federal funding formulas, for all of the other things. But for redistricting, they should only have citizen data. And what that means is, so here's the current problem we have. It's unconstitutional. The outcomes are essentially unconstitutional because you have these urban congressional districts that, let's just say they have 780,000 people in it, but only 400,000 of them are citizens. And then you have a rural district and it has 780,000 people, but 690,000 of those people are citizens. It means that you have citizens in urban districts that have disproportional voting power from rural citizens. And this will be a huge impact on on basically the outcomes of these elections. It also makes it harder for the left to rig purplish districts. And they're going to have to carve out, even in their own states, they're going to have to carve out a lot more Republican districts. And this has a tangential effect on voter turnout, because if the left creates all of these 70-30 districts, then the Republican vote in those districts is highly suppressed because they don't think that they have a chance in hell to win that election. It's a D+40 district. So if you make it harder for Democrats to make all of these super Democrat districts because you're depriving the electoral weight of these urban areas, cities, and suburbs of legal immigrants and illegal immigrants, because you're asking the citizenship data, and you're getting an accurate count of where citizens live in that state because you're getting rid of differential privacy. It's not hiding the location of all these people anymore. Then you can actually draw highly accurate, objectively fair maps that will disproportionately skew. The last thing I'll say is we can actually get some advantage of this before 2030. So you cannot redo the census right now before the next election. There's not enough time. You can republish a prior census. And I think that we have, although the data is not perfect, we didn't ask the citizenship question, we can clean it up quite a bit, reapportion and force a lot of these states to have to redistrict before the 2026. And certainly I think that there's plenty of roadway here to force a redistricting process before the 2028 presidential cycle. So with that, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you very much. That's our last speaker. Want to thank Rumble for putting us on the front page, Stephen Bannon for putting me on, and also for getting behind us every time we have an election security call by putting it up, rebroadcasting. It gets 60, 70,000 people on it. We need more podcasters because we're spreading this in 58 different countries, or rather through Dan Schmaliglio, who has a great podcast, really big help. He's been on a new job, so we haven't been able to talk lately, but he's got a whole network going on. And we will talk about more people next time we have it on. Raj, you want to come on? Our next one will be the first week of December. We're taking November off to recuperate. Want to thank everybody for coming on all over the country, the world. We're so happy. I mean, the good news is we didn't have any technical problems. You know, you run this over the last 3 years, and I think maybe once we had a technical problem. So we're very lucky, and we want to thank everybody who's come on, everybody who's promoted us. I can tell you next time we'll bring up some people. John Goodman, my good friend, helps us. Tina Celine out in California spreads us all over California. Dan Schultz has helped us quite a lot on precinct strategy. Go to www.precinctstrategy.com. Please get his book for Christmas. Send it out to one of your friends. I will tell you this, that I had so many people tell me that they're getting involved because they see our programs. We got more precinct strategy people coming on. We got more election security people coming on. The RNC is recognizing that we're very important. If you want to be a poll watcher, go to protectthevote.com. Very important. Please call Governor Jared Polis and let's get Tina Peters out of jail. We've heard people talk about her every time. She calls me every couple of weeks from jail. I don't know how she makes it. Very tough. She's in with some bad people. Mike Lindell's gone up with President Trump. Many people have gone up with President Trump. I know he's a busy guy. I know he considers that. So let's have her in our prayers. So Raj, you want to close it up?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Two things. If you remember, one of our earliest speakers today, Deb Monks, she talked a lot about what she is doing and how so much of that translates over into multiple states. I want to draw your attention to a free resource that you can take advantage of, and that is here at defendflorida.org. If you go to defendflorida.org, you see this toolkit. Click on this toolkit, and why would you do that? Because when you do that, all of these resources become available to you. You're looking for flyers on election security that you can use to galvanize your volunteers or in your meetings. If you're looking for email scripts that you can use to talk with your officials, if you're looking for information on the Trump's executive order that was issued earlier on, all of this information is here. All you have to go to do is defendflorida.org. Click on the toolkit button. Next thing is, if you are in Florida in the Volusia County area, please take advantage of this event taking place tomorrow in Volusia County. Go to reclaimcampaign.com, reclaimcampaign.com. and you can get all the information here. David Kalin will be speaking. As you know, he is the one that has broken the information about one of the most powerful lobbyists in the state of Florida, who is also a state committee man for the Republican Party, who apparently or allegedly is donating money to Democrat candidates, and the Democrat candidates are winning. So the things are quite needing your attention in the state of Florida. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's all kinds of other things that we'll be covering, including health updates, rules for rhinos from Kathy Chamberlain. I will be presenting, Melissa King, how to train candidates and get your candidates successful. When? In November? No. Don't think November. Do not think November. Think August 18th. If you're in Florida, August 18th. That is the date of the primaries. And in your states, respectively, please keep the primaries front and center. If you wait till the general elections, it's too late. All right, thank you for that. Again, we want to thank Steve Stern. We want to thank the flag shirt. We can see Bud Redenauer over here sporting the same flag shirt. Look at him. He looks fantastic. Look at that. Oh, that's gorgeous. You guys need to get your own flag shirt as well. Thank you, Bud. And friends, have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next time. Please say a prayer for the people that are going through some medical procedures, including Steve Stern, for a quick and fast recovery as he goes through that procedure. And he's going to come out with flying colors. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a great couple of weeks. We'll see you on the next call. Bye for now.